Are you worried about missing important deadlines in your Excel data? Well, in this video, I'm going to show you how to highlight deadlines that are overdue in red, or change them to yellow if they're due soon, like within 1 week, 2 weeks, or even a month. And that's not all. I'll also show you how to create a pop-up notification like this that alerts you when payments are due. Best part is, once it's set up, it's fully automatic. There's no ongoing maintenance, and you enjoy the benefits forever. Here's a file that we're working with, and you can download in the description below. So you can see we have a few different invoices with their due date, and we want to find out how many days left we have to pay, and the status for that, whether it's past due or it's on time, etc. So the first step is to find the current date. We can do that just with the date function, and this is dynamic. When we open it tomorrow, the date is going to be updated to tomorrow. So now we can find out the date yet, which is simply the due date minus the current date. Now we want to log this one, so we can move it down across all the rows . And for that, you just want to press the F4 key to add. So, next we have the status, and for that it's going to depend on the due within. Let's say I put a 7 in here. So I can change the status by typing equals if with an S in the end there . And the logical test is firstly that the days left, if it's greater than the due within date, then that means that we're on time . So in quotations here we can put on time, close those quotations, comma . And secondly, if that same day is left is greater than 0, that means that it's within those 7 days, and so we should put in quotations to pay now. And finally, the last option is when that F6 again. So it's this cell right here is less than 0, In that scenario, it's obviously late. So we need to put past due in here in quotations. We can then close the parenthesis and hit enter. You can see it spills down because this is the table. Let's check this. So these are on time -6, so that's past due. One thing that's wrong here is you might notice with this one, for instance, it's actually moved down. So we have to lock the top part again so that it doesn't move around. It's this C3 here that we want to lock by pressing the F4 key. Hit enter there, and now you can see it should all be accurate. This one here is past due, while this one down below that has 1 day left is saying a now. Because we've made this fully dynamic, if I go ahead and change the due within date to 14 days, you'll see how everything updates as well. We can change the due within date from just having a number like 14 to seeing 14 days. And for that, we can press Ctrl 1 and go to custom. Down below here, we want to add the number signs for this one here. And then I'm just going to put a space and in quotations days hit enter there. So it's still recognized as a number, but now we have the special formatting on it. I can change this to 1 day, and you'll see how everything updates as well. The due within section is great because depending on the company, you're going to have different processing times for your invoices. The next step is to start highlighting the invoices that are past due. Obviously, that's a critical situation. So maybe we want to highlight that in red. We can just first select all of them. So Ctrl Shift down, Ctrl Shift right, and from here, head over to conditional formatting, and we'll go to new rule. Within this area, we want to go to the last pop-up, use a formula, and let me move that over here to the side, and that should be equals to this cell. So it's the G6 for us, and that should be equals to, in quotations, a specific text which is past due. Make sure that's in quotations. But to be able to drag this down across all the rows, we need to get rid of the extra $sign of the 6. So we should only have one on column G. If this is the case, we then need to format it. Let's say we choose a fill color here on the fill tab, and I'm going to go for a red one like that. Click on OK. OK again. And you'll notice that these two that are past due are highlighted in red. If I change one of these, let's say I put the 2024 here, so it's past due. You'll notice how that updates automatically. And if you want to highlight just the status column instead of the whole row like this, I'll show you how to do that later. Next up, we should work on the pay now ones. So it's very much the same concept. I'm just going to select the whole area, go to conditional formatting, new rule, and this time around, it's just going to change in the form of the format. So all we need to do is select the same G6. Again, we want to get rid of that $sign on the 6, and when that's equals to this time pay now. Close those quotations. Then we want to format it in a different color, like a yellow. Click on OK. OK again. And you can see the pay now is highlighted in yellow. One of the things that we should probably improve is the do within date. So over here right now we have 7 days. But if I just put some text like this, you'll notice how everything in the conditional formatting is messed up. So let's try to change that by protecting it. And to do this, we'll first delete the area and head over to data and click on this button right here with the check mark that's known as data validation. What we'll do is add a list in here such that it protects this whole area. So you can only write whatever is in this source area. Let's say we can only put 7, 14, 21 and 28 days representing a month. Click on OK there, and so now we have this drop-down that shows us exactly which values we can add. If I change this and try to put hello, you'll notice that I actually get an error. So I need to press escape to get out of that. That's the idea, and now it's fully dynamic. So here we are in the file, and we want to add one more bucket here that it's going to be for the total sum. So let's first select this whole row with Shift space and then Control Shift plus to add an extra row in here. So I'll just copy this format here and paste it down below. It's going to be called something like total due, and we just want to use the sum if function such that the range is all of these different statuses and when they're equals to a criteria, so comma, and the criteria should be when they're paid now mode. Let's say we call it that. Make sure it's with capitals here. Then we want to sum the amount. So all of these amounts here, which is the amount of the fourth invoice, close the parentheses and hit enter. Right now you'll notice this has the wrong format. So all we need to do is press Ctrl 1 and go over to number. We don't want any decimal places, but we do want a comma separator and click on OK. So right now it's only 75,000 as we just have this one pay now. But if I change the number of days here to 14, you notice how we have a bigger number because it's summing on 3. And you might be like, hang on, what about those that are past due? Maybe they should be included in here as well. If that's the case, you can just use the sumifs function to include more than one criteria. This is all looking good so far. But now we get into the cool stuff with the pop-up notification that alerts us of which rows are actually due for payment. So for this over here, we just need to go over to the developer tab. If you can't find it, just go to any other tab, right-click, and go to customize the ribbon. If you do that, you'll get this pop-up, and on the right-hand side you want to make sure developer is ticked. Once you do, just click on OK so we can head over to developer, and we're going to need to go to Visual Basic. When you do, you should see a page like this one, and you need to have this left-hand side Open Project VBA project. When you do, you should see a page like this one, and you need to have this left-hand side Open Project VBA project. And click on Project Explorer. We want to head over to the part called this workbook. Double-click on that. And once you do, I'm going to paste the code in here, which you can actually find in the link in the description completely for free. So you can just copy and paste that in here as well. Let's go over what it's doing. Here you can see it's going to search for the range of 1 to 100. And you can obviously change this as you like to, let's say 150 if I want it. And in that area, if it finds a text pay now, it's basically going to find the row number for it. Because it's a loop, it's going to keep accumulating all of the row numbers. And at the end here, it's going to create a pop-up. So you can see if there are results, display this pop-up. And it's just gonna be a message box saying pay now rows found. And it's gonna say all of the rows that have been found. And if there are none, it's just gonna say no pay now found in range. So you can change the text as you like wherever it's in quotations to fit your needs. To give it a try, we just need to run this once quickly here on the top left, and you'll notice that it says invoices due in the following rows, row 13 pay now, which is this exact one. Click on OK there. Let me quickly change that in the Excel file to save 14 days or something like that. And now we can go back to VBA and run this again. Now we should have updated. You can see row 8 and 13. So this is working great, and save it now because we have some code we need to save it as a macro-enabled workbook. We can do that by going to File Save As, and here, instead of an Excel workbook, we want to go for an Excel macro-enabled workbook. Click on Save there, and the idea is that whenever you open this file, it's going to show you that pop-up first. Let me show you here. I've got the file that I'm just going to open, and as soon as we do, you'll notice we get the pop-up telling us exactly what needs to be paid. You can actually do the same thing with something like stock inventory. So if we head over to this other sheet, you'll notice that now we have units, and so whenever we're below the threshold, we need to reorder. We've got here a sum, which is basically the sum of the minimum stock and the buffer. Obviously, if you need to reorder, it might take some time, so that's why we've added a buffer of 1000. And here on the right of that we have the reorder status, which is a simple yes or no. All it's saying is that if the threshold is greater than the units sold, then we should reorder, and if not, we don't need to. And for the conditional formatting here, you'll notice it's only on this column, whereas before it was on the entire row like over here. If you want it this way because maybe you think it's a bit cleaner, all you need to do is select only this column as opposed to all of the columns and over to conditional formatting. Highlight cell rules when they're equals to. So this one right here to a yes. Then we want a specific coloring like light red fill with dark red text. Click on OK there and that should do it for you. It's very friendly to new updates. For example, let me just copy-paste some of these rows down below. You notice how all of the values still update and all of the conditional formatting is also updating. I can change one of these on the bottom to 2025 and it all changes too. So for any Excel file that has a deadline, learning something like this properly is going to save you a lot of time and stress. If you want to learn more, hit the like button and the subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.